Hey friends, I've got a very serious question for you. If the government came knocking at your door and wanted to confiscate your motorcycle or your motorcycles, what in the world would you do? Let's talk about that. In the not so distant future, gasoline is much more difficult to find than it is now, and is costing upwards of right around $20 a gallon. There's a gentleman by the name of Conrad Mendel. Now, Conrad hosts a podcast. It's sort of like a motorcycle swap shop. And Conrad is in this vicious battle with the government called the Transportation and Modernization Act. And what is happening with it is that over the next 10 years, all fossil fuel engines will be banned and cars are going to be autonomous. They're going to drive on their own, kind of like Teslas now and that type of thing. On top of that, all motorcycles and ATVs are going to be banned from the road within 1 year. And Conrad has engaged with the government and is fighting this battle on many different fronts. Now, the government is offering what they're calling a very generous buyback program for your motorcycle, that they are going to give you 100% of the market value within the first 60 days that the Modernization Act goes into effect. And then from there, it all goes downhill. They'll offer less and less money along the way. On top of that, what the government wants to do, like I mentioned, autonomous vehicles will be the only vehicles on the road. The bad thing about that is, let's think about that. If autonomous vehicles are placed on the road and the only things that are allowed on the road, and they're managed and supported by the government, then the government's going to know where you go, who you go with, how long you stay. And let me ask you this: what prevents the government from dropping in some type of audio listening device or cameras that will be owned by the government in these cars to eavesdrop on everything you do and everything you say? Let's just be honest with each other. That is an absolute reality. Now, there's another gentleman that we need to talk about that's very important to this story, and his name is Greg Mendel. And Greg is one of the co-founders of The Grid. Now, The Grid is another name for this autonomous network. And Greg, he used to be a motorcyclist. He used to love riding motorcycles. But Greg's focus changed from riding motorcycles to try to save the environment. And that's his perspective, and that's his plan. He gave up riding motorcycles for the sake of trying to help the environment by doing this Grid autonomous vehicle network. And so he's working hard, as we've got the other gentleman, Colin, that is working against the government. Greg is working with the government to try to get all of these laws and these new bills passed through to get fossil fuels outlawed and to get motorcycles off the road. Now, while Greg is working to get all this pushed through, information leaks that talks about what the schedule is going to be for motorcycles before the ban. So they're not going to let motorcycles ride around everywhere whenever they want to. Oh no. The government has stepped in and said motorcycles are only permitted on the road Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Nothing on Saturday, but on Sunday, something like 12 p.m. to 2. So let's think about this. You can't ride to work. You can't go out and ride on the weekend. All of everything that you want to do as far as just getting out, getting on two wheels, the government says it is now illegal for you to do such a thing. Aside from the schedule that I just mentioned, information has also been leaked that motorcycles are not only going to become illegal by the government and confiscated, these motorcycles will be crushed and destroyed. So I'm talking about all motorcycles. A motorcycle, some show bike that someone has spent $100,000 on, the government's going to take it and crush it. Let's just say one of the very first Harley Davidsons that's ever existed, that should be sitting somewhere in a museum. It is no longer going to be in a museum. The government is going to take that motorcycle and crush it. All motorcycles will be disposed of and trashed as soon as possible by the government. And again, Greg Mendel is in charge of this. Now, Conrad Mendel, remember the guy that I was telling you about, he had the podcast? Conrad would ride his motorcycle everywhere. Everywhere he went, he would ride his motorcycle. This guy was an old school bike builder, and he loved motorcycling. But there is a connection, if you haven't picked up on it yet, with Conrad and Greg Mendel. They both share that last name, Mendel, right? Well, Conrad, the man who is fighting against the government, is the father of Greg Mendel, the gentleman who started the grid to move forward with getting motorcycles off the road. Now, why would something like that happen? Why is that? Well, just like any family, there's certain family dynamics and certain tensions in relationships, and this relationship between Conrad Mendel and his son Greg is no different. Because if you haven't noticed, I haven't mentioned anything about Conrad's wife or Greg's mother, and that's because she was killed in a tragic automobile accident. There was a distracted driver. He was on his cell phone, and well, unfortunately, Mrs. Mendel, the wife and mother, lost her life. So this drove a huge stake between the two of them. So now Conrad Mendel, the father, wants to take all of his energy to get rid of any type of technology, right? To get rid of any type of technology out on the road. In his viewpoint, all of these autonomous vehicles is just more technology that's going to result in deaths and car crashes and all these type of things, because we're no longer relying on people. Number one, we're relying on the government, and number two, we're relying on computer systems to get us where we need to go, and hopefully in one piece. And Conrad cannot stand that thought. Well, Greg, on the other hand, who is the son, says technology is the only way that we can preserve life, and that distracted driving could be a thing of the past. And so you have these two gentlemen from two different viewpoints who are doing everything they can to do what's right in their viewpoint. And man, it is really a tension and a possibility of something that could happen in any family. So why am I going through this, and why am I talking about this? Well, there is a show on Amazon Prime that I would love for you to check out. It's called The Last Motorcycle on Earth, and the premise of the show is everything that you and I just went over and that I told you about. It is extremely interesting. I love the way it's filmed. It's made with real bikers. It's made with real bikes. The storyline is engaging and holds your attention. Unfortunately, I think there was supposed to be a part 2 and a part 3 to it that hasn't been filmed yet. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, I don't know. But just the way that the episode ends is very engaging. It's about an hour long, but it is so very good. And I like things that make you think. You know, something that's going to make you think and have you kind of, you know, ponder on what ifs. And so let's think about this. I mean, the motorcycle that I'm on right now, this Sportster S, has got the Revolution Max engine, and one of the big pushes for the Revolution Max engine, at least from what I've been told, is all these EPA regulations and compliances that Harley is having to get pushed through, and, you know, pollution this and pollution that and that type of thing. So if the government decided to take it a step further, why couldn't they do everything that I just mentioned to you? Well, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility. Who knows what could happen one of these days. But I would like for you to think about that and answer this question in the comments below. If the government comes knocking on your door one day to confiscate your collection of motorcycles, or just your motorcycle, or whatever you have, ATVs and that type of thing, what in the world are you going to do? So anyway, guys, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for hanging in here with me during story time. I hope you have an excellent day, and we'll talk to you again soon.